he had struggled for probably most of his life. A lot of our young people have had more negative experiences of education, so it's really nice to think that actually when they're coming to our building, it's a building they want to go into.
My mum works as a TA in an SEN school, and I spoke to her about what she finds so rewarding in watching young people develop and giving them the opportunity to do that in a specialist environment. Hi, What the Health Tech listeners. I'm your host this week, Aidan Todd. This is the podcast where we discuss best practice, ideas and topics across health and social care. This week, we're joined by Alex Davenport, Director of SEN at Horizon Care and Education. Alex joins us as Horizon Education prepare to open 3 new specialist schools across England this year. She shares how the right tools, approaches and environment can help transform therapy delivery, improve outcomes and help children thrive. Welcome to the podcast, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
So this is an exciting year for Horizon with the new specialist schools opening. Can you tell us a bit about the project, why specialist schools are so important, and how today's educational landscape is influencing the way we support children?
Absolutely. It is, as you say, a really exciting time for Horizon. We've got 3 new schools coming online in the next 12 months. Our educational offer has a really integrated therapeutic element to it. So we support people with social, emotional, mental health needs in our schools. But the real key difference for us is how integrated that therapeutic offer becomes. And it starts from the second that young people arrive at our schools. You know, we're really trying to develop something that is integrated, is supportive, is, you know, really welcoming for people that have struggled in other settings for their education. So we get involved from a therapeutic perspective in designing our buildings, in furnishing them, in planning curriculums, in being present and doing the training for our staff. So they really are part and parcel of the everyday working in our schools, which I think is so important. You know, we can't just have therapists in a room doing a clinic. They really need to make sure that everything for that young person works to help them to get their education. Mm-hmm. So that again for me is why our SEN schools and schools like ours are so important. People might have had challenges in other settings, they may have been out of school for a long time.
Yeah.
It might just not work for them.
Yeah.
So by coming to us, we're able to do a more bespoke assessment. We'll be able to look at what their skill sets are, what their real strengths are, and many of our young people have strengths in areas outside of whether that be academic or curriculum, you know, maybe amazing communicators or really creative.
Yeah.
And we really have that opportunity to develop that side of the young person and to use that to then support them with the areas where they do struggle.
Yeah.
And that's something we're really good at. At Horizon, we very much are about supporting young people to thrive in our environments. So it's all about supporting them to be ready to learn, as we call it. So for us, young people might need different methods of regulating when they come into the school building. They might need sensory circuits, or they might just need welcoming in, a very soft start to the day. They might need certain seating options. They might need certain location in the classroom to help them focus. And we really invest a lot of time in working out what that is when people join us. For example, one of our schools at Draycott, they've done a huge piece of work there around their environment. And that really, really worked on what works for that cohort. A lot of the cohort there enjoy movement, they regulate with the outdoors. So actually how they've set their day up is they have the opportunity to do that really regularly. And even in the classrooms where they're sitting, how they've located the furniture and things, there's access to see outside, there's lots of light, there's different kind of stations within that. So we're really flexible in supporting young people to have the best opportunity to learn.
That sounds brilliant. Yeah, it's really interesting how you approach it in terms of applying that sort of therapy outcomes specific sort of design within the building from the moment they step in. So you mentioned a few bits there. Are there any other bits that you've done specifically in the design process to support the children?
Yeah, so we're doing lots of work on that this year. So for the new schools that we've got opening and for Draycott that I just mentioned, we're doing a piece of work now where we're working with our property developers to really look at what those sites should look like and maximising the sites we've got. So we get involved at the point where we're planning layout, where we're planning what the car park should be like, what the drive in and out experience is, what the outdoor spaces are. And then we really take that to the next level in that once you're in the building, we've got some basic kind of horizon design principles that we work to. So we very much try and zone the areas. So we've got classroom spaces, we've got co-regulation spaces, we've got social spaces, and we have colour palettes that work for those, that really try and work on that psychological mindset for when you're in those rooms. So it gives that real clarity and purpose for those spaces, which is really helpful for people with neurodiverse conditions. So we really support that, and we try and create a flow around the building. There's nothing worse in settings such as ours where every corridor you walk down there's a dead end. Feels very frustrating for people. So we kind of work on that side as well. But also the curb appeal, a lot of our young people have had more negative experiences of education, so it's really nice to think that actually when they're coming to our building, it's a building they want to go into. And 9 Points Property, who are our property developers, are amazing in that they work with us. They've gone with some of my crazy ideas that we throw out there, challenges to the architects, and they actually have engaged with our staff. I did a day with our whole SEN team and them a few months ago where we looked at real key areas like transition spaces and social spaces and what they should look like for young people and how they work for us. And then last week they came and did a piece with the students at Draycott where we did some really creative activities to try and plan what they would like the school to be developed into and look like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exciting times.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely. It's super exciting in terms of the new sites opening. You touched on it a bit there around maybe some of the lessons that you've learned from your existing schools to bring into the design and implementation of your new specialist schools. So thinking specifically around supporting therapy outcomes from sort of day one, are there any specific other lessons that you've learned from your existing schools to bring into
Absolutely, there's always something you could do better. And I think one thing we've really learnt from doing these new schools this year and last year is about getting that therapy element in early. It's having that involvement from the design, but it's also getting in there early and supporting your new staff team. In some of our schools that we opened last year, we had a lot of therapeutic input early doors, supporting staff to work with our therapeutic model, which is SHINE. And also to start thinking about those more kind of targeted interventions that we support staff to run. So thinking about our Chatter Champions programme, our Horizon Blocks, how we can support them to deliver really important hands-on interventions within the school under the support of the therapy team. So I think that's been really, really valuable and something we've made sure that will be provision for any schools moving forward.
Brilliant. Sounds amazing. So what are the key objectives you were hoping to achieve with the new specialist schools?
Oh, that's an exciting question. So our goal at Horizon is overall for our young people to thrive in a therapeutic environment, and that might look different for each of our young people. We have some children that have been out of school for a long, long time. We have other children who haven't, but have not quite achieved in others, so may be at a different point academically and want to come out with different outcomes. For me, it's very much about us supporting young people to get that love of learning back. Because for me, education is something that doesn't just stop at 16. Yeah. And actually, if we can create that love of learning again for our young people, they've got the option to come back to education should they want to. Yeah. And actually, their path might not look traditional. They might want to specialise in a different route, trying to think of some of the more creative things our young people do. They are very creative. Yep. So that might be the path for them. And it's as long as they feel that they've got achievement through the school and that they enjoy learning and have had a positive social experience, I think for me they're the main outcomes we can want to work towards. Yeah,
absolutely. And that sort of maybe a more holistic approach to learning and education around sort of life skills and creative skills, social skills, that sort of thing. The value in that for the children that attend your schools is huge, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was talking to a young person in one of our schools last week. She'll be very pleased that I tell you this story. So I met with her last week. She was telling me about her own little business she's set up making artificial flowers. They were amazing. Should have bought a business card to show you, but I haven't. And she is really, really good at talking about her experiences of being a young person that's been in care. She wants to work in that field where she can do things like this, where she can do events, where she can talk to people about her experiences, and that's going to be her career path. She's so passionate about that, but she struggled on that more traditional academic front. So for me, it's our role to support her to achieve the goal she wants to achieve, which would be more in that vein, and we can absolutely do that in our Horizon schools.
Amazing. Central to everything you do at Horizon is ensuring that every child is unique and feels valued and confident about their future. How does this translate to the work that you do, and what is it about being director of SEN that is so rewarding?
So Horizon has been on a real journey, I think, since I started 3 years ago. We've done lots of work in the education division to look at what our offer has evolved to become. And we very much now work on that model that curriculum and that SEND offer have to be integrated. They have to be intertwined. They're one thing, not separate, which was historical. So, you know, for us, that's about shaping that young person's experience and that having that bespoke kind of element to it, whilst also holding, you know, the importance of that being, you know, part of a wider standard and part of, you know, wider academic achievements. So we've done lots and lots of work on that. And we very much want every young person to have a pathway, whether that be more vocational or more academic, as I said earlier. So again, for our young people, there's a huge amount of work going on, which I could talk for hours to you about what we do. But we've got a huge amount of work that Chloe O'Malley, our head of careers, does to support with looking at what people's options are after school, whether that be post-16 education or moving on to apprenticeships or other colleges. And they do lots of work on that in all of our schools now. Again, our personal development curriculum is really strong, where we look at all those other skills that I told you about. Yeah. It's not just about academics. And all the Senkos in our schools use our 7Cs curriculum. So that's a really more strength-based framework that helps to identify those areas such as, you know, creativity and communication that our young people are good at. So it's about us shaping what life could be, what your options could be, and really supporting young people to identify and work towards those goals. For me, as director of SEND, my background is as an OT. So for me, my bread and butter is about enjoying watching people become independent and advocates for themselves, really. And I think watching that daily in our children and young people is incredible and a lovely thing to be part of. But that spans not just our young people. The therapeutic and SEND teams literally on a daily basis amaze me with the stuff that they want to do for the young people, the ideas they have to generate things. And the team has just gone from strength to strength over the last few years and do some incredible work, which they think's just part of the day job. But actually it really, really isn't. They do go above and beyond on a daily basis and have had some fantastic input with the young people that's led to some really positive outcomes. So
that's brilliant. My mum works as a TA in an SEN school, and in preparation for speaking to you today, I spoke to her about what she finds so rewarding, and essentially said the same thing around watching young people develop and giving them the opportunity and tools to do that in a specialist environment that's tailored to them to provide that holistic support and approach. So yeah, it's really interesting the work that you're doing at Horizon.
Yeah, incredible thing to watch. And, you know, again, another student I was talking to the other week really struggled with his kind of social connection with people, and he went on work experience a few months ago in a restaurant. He's now got a weekend job there, and from what I hear, he's getting some pretty good tips out of it as well. So, you know, it's really nice to see people really challenge themselves and kind of exceed their own expectations. It's lovely.
Within Horizon, multiple teams use Radar Healthcare. I know you worked with Mark Taylor to capture therapy notes using Radar. Could you tell us a bit about that and how you use Radar Healthcare to improve outcomes for children?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mark Taylor was the brainchild in helping me develop the platform for us to do electronic notes in Radar. All credit to him because I'm not very techie at all. So he really helped us to do that. What we wanted was a platform that gave us flexibility to be able to pull data that was really meaningful rather than just however many hours of therapy someone's had. That's useful in part, but it doesn't tell the whole story. So in being able to create those forms ourselves and to really think through what the workflows would be, it gave us the opportunity to think about what the reporting would come out like. So currently we're able to pull data on a young person on an individual level. It's how much therapy they've had, whether they've met their goals, that type of thing. But we're also able to pull data thinking about that on a school level. So, for example, if there's a school that has a huge speech, language and communication need, we need to build that into their school development plan, their training plan, so they've got really, really well-informed staff and that we're actually meeting the needs of those young people. But it also tells us on an organisational level what we've got. Yeah. So it might talk about what percentage we've got of SALT need, OT need, psychotherapy need, and that really then helps us to shape, again, the wider training programmes. It helps us to think about recruitment, to make sure that we're really informed in how we're doing things and making decisions for the team. So that's really positive.
Sounds brilliant. So Radar Healthcare is allowing you to make sort of data-led decisions, but also not losing the fact that the children that you support are not numbers on a page. They are humans and with complex needs or what have you. And it's really interesting to hear how Radar supports that.
And the next phase of the work is going to be us thinking about how we use that alongside other information we already hold in Radar. Yeah. So, for young people, if they have periods of change in their life and they have an increase in incidents, we'll be able to track actually if the increased therapy input would have an impact on their incidence behaviour as well. So they can really see a change as well. When they're struggling, it can be hard for them to see that they're making progress, and this could really help us support that. Or not, to the other effect, is the therapy they're having not right for them now? And then do we need to make some changes and tweaks? So it'll be really interesting to have that wider narrative about what's happening for that young person and how we can support and how impactful that is.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting and a really useful way to make that impact and like you say, alter perhaps your services or the support, the therapy that you're providing to tailor it to a specific child given their needs. It sounds really interesting. What do you hope the future of specialist education and therapy looks like? And how can schools and organisations continue to innovate to support children to thrive?
On a personal level, I would really like to see the SEN reform looking at more flexibility and versatility in education for young people. I think there's great opportunity for more collaboration across different sectors, so independent and mainstream. There's great benefits to both that we could make more of. I think on the positive though, the SEN reform has been an opportunity for people who are impacted by, going through the EHCP process to have a voice and to share their frustrations and challenges with that. Yeah. So I think that's really positive, and I just hope that for the future of education there can be that much more versatile approach for young people.
Yeah, absolutely, and you mentioned there about the EHCP process, and obviously there's increased demand for specialist education support for children, and it seems to be only increasing year on year at the moment. So it's really interesting to hear how Horizon is with the new specialist schools, tailoring sort of therapy outcomes from day one, from when you enter the door, to support children to thrive.
We do offer support for young people who are in transition periods. So, if they've had to step out of mainstream for a period of time, they can continue their education and then we support them to do that transition back into mainstream. Yeah. Or we would support them, if a placement such as one of our Horizon schools or something like that was better for them. So that's what I talk about when I mean about flexibility and, that more versatile approach. For some young people, they need intensive input to be able to transition back into those kind of settings. And I think the more of that we could offer, as a nation, the better that would be for young people. So
brilliant. At the end of each episode, we ask guests to share a What the Health Tech moment. This can be something from your experience within health and social care that has impacted you in some way. We've had everything from the weird and wonderful to deeply emotional and inspiring moments, so no pressure, Alex. Can you share a memorable moment from working within the sector with us?
As we mentioned before doing this podcast, my previous roles clinically have been working in the prison sector. And I think for me, there's probably a lot of parity in some way between working with some of the young people that we work with now and the educational experience that is seen in the prisons. So I will think of something from when I've worked in the prisons. I'll talk about a young man who I worked with and I was in the prisons. He had struggled for probably most of his life, probably from being, in his more junior years, maybe 6, 7, he had struggled getting into education and sustaining education. He'd then ended up going down the criminality route, served numerous prison sentences, really struggled with his mental health until the point that I met him was after quite a serious bout of self-harm. We worked with him. Probably my first experience of sitting locked in a cell at that time to support him. And we did a lot of work with him just to understand himself. It was something that, his words, not mine, he said he'd never had that opportunity before to understand why his brain worked like it did, why he thought like he did, why he had the range of emotions that he did. We did quite a lot of sensory work with him in supporting him to regulate that, work to help him understand his mental health condition. And then we also supported him right the way through to his release from prison. He was a young person. He was at the time very similar age to me, so he was only in his early 30s at the time. Had spent a lot of his time in the criminal justice system and really wanted his life to be different. Was really motivated by wanting to be back part of his family, supporting his stepchild, and he worked so incredibly hard to understand himself better. And on the day of his release, he said he never felt so understood and had such aspiration to go on and do well. From what I know, he is still not in the criminal justice system, so he's done really well. But he absolutely attributed that to just having someone help understand him and help him understand why he thought differently. And I think that's such a powerful message that actually everybody is unique, everybody is individual, and sometimes we just need a little bit of compassion and a little bit of dependability, and that you'll keep turning up even when it's tough for people and support them. And hopefully he's gone on to have a really positive life and feel really accepted and valued by family, friends and things. So yeah, it was a really positive experience for me to see him grow and to feel confident to go out of that setting and live his life, really.
Yeah, that's a genuinely inspiring story, Alex. Thanks for sharing that. I suppose, like you say, it speaks to the fact that perhaps mainstream education doesn't work for everyone, and having those specialist tailored approaches, people can thrive and completely turn their lives around and have rewarding, happy lives for the sake of it. So it's just hugely impactful. So thanks for sharing that with us.
No problem.
Join us next time for another episode of What the Health Tech. Please don't forget to rate and subscribe. And if you have any comments or questions, please get in touch at whatthehealthtech@radarhealthcare.com.